The fire is already burning when you arrive tonight. You know the path now, the mountain, the two great stones, the amber light between them. Your feet finding it without thinking the way feet find paths they have walked before. The cave receiving you the way it always receives whoever needs it, without ceremony, without question, simply open, simply warm. Merlin is in his place across the fire. But tonight, something is different. You notice it before you have fully crossed the cave floor to your seat. A stillness in the cave beyond the usual stillness. The crystals on the walls catching the firelight in their familiar amber wave. A mountain breathing its slow ancient breath. All of that the same, but something else. Something that makes the cave feel fuller than it did last time. As if the space between the crystal walls is holding more than fire and stone and the old wizard's presence. Sit down across the fire from Merlin. He looks at you. His old eyes in the firelight, that look he has, and one that tells you he has something particular tonight. Not the same story as last time, something different in quality, quieter perhaps, something that requires the kind of listening that happens below the level of thinking. He says, something came to the cave last night. He does not say what yet. He lets those words sit in the cave air the way last time he let the stars came down sit in the cave air, giving you time to feel the weight of them before the story fills them. I want to tell you about it. Before he begins, breathe with me. Breathe in slowly through your nose. Feel the cave air filling you. Cool and mineral and ancient as always. The familiar smell of crystal and old stone and Merlin's fire. Hold it gently. Now breathe out. Let your shoulders drop. Let your hands open in your lap. Let the day that brought you here step back to its proper distance. Breathe in. The cave is fuller tonight than you have ever felt it. Breathe out. Merlin's fire is warm and steady between you. Breathe in. The mountain valley is still outside. The lake is silver in the moonlight. Breathe out. The story is about to begin. You are already inside it. Merlin leans forward. The firelight full on his face. Last night, he says, the last unicorn came to the lake in the valley below this mountain. And before the morning it came here, into this cave, and it slept. He pauses. I watched over it until the dawn. This is what I saw. If this story brought you peace tonight, subscribe to Medieval Sleep Tales. New sleep stories are waiting for you there. Merlin is quiet for a moment after those words, as he was quiet before the stars came down. You have come to understand this about him. The silence before the story is not empty. It is the story gathering itself, finding its edges, deciding what shape it needs to take to arrive in you correctly. Merlin simply the vessel for that process, sitting with his hands on his staff and his eyes on the fire between you and letting the story find its own beginning. The cave is different tonight. You noticed it when you came in. Something in the air. Not the smell. The smell is the same. The way a room feels different when something extraordinary has been in it recently. When the ordinary air has been displaced by something that does not usually inhabit ordinary air, it has left its trace behind. Something was here. I heard it first, Merlin says. His voice the quiet register, the cave voice, the voice that belongs to this fire and these crystal walls and the deep mountain night, and the story that needs to be told in exactly this way, in exactly this place. I was sitting where I always sit, the fire at its evening height, the crystals doing what they do, the mountain breathing, all of it as it always is at that hour. And then from outside the cave, from the valley below, a sound. He pauses. Not a sound I had heard before. I have heard many sounds in my long life. The sounds of battles and of celebrations, and of the particular silence that follows both. The sounds of storms on mountains, and of rivers in flood, and of the sea when it has decided to remind the land of what it is. I have heard the sounds of creatures that have no names in any language still spoken, and I had not heard this sound before. The fire between you gives its small breath. The crystals carry their amber wave across the walls. It was like a bell, Merlin says, but a bell that had been made from moonlight rather than from metal. If you can imagine the sound that moonlight would make if it were struck, high, clear, gone almost before it arrived. The sound still there, in the stone, in the crystal, in the chest of whoever heard it. Feel that in your chest now. Not a dramatic feeling, the opposite. The particular stillness that a very clear sound produces in the body when it has been heard. The way the right sound in the right place at the right moment produces not excitement but quiet, a clearing, as if the sound moved through you and took something with it on its way, something that had been sitting in your chest since this morning perhaps, something that needed exactly that specific clear high sound to dislodge it. Gone now. I went to the cave entrance, Merlin continues, between the two great stones, and I looked down at the valley. The lake was there as it always is. the mountain valley holding it the way it always holds it, the moon above sending its light straight down onto the water. The reflection of it on the lake surfaces second moon below the first, and at the edge of the lake he stops. The fire, the crystals, the mountain breathing once. At the edge of the lake, something white, standing completely still, its head lowered to the water, simply lowering its head to the surface of the lake, the way you lower your head when you are tired beyond the tiredness of the body. When you are tired in the way that only very old things get tired. Things that have been in the world long enough to have seen everything they were made to see, and are now simply at the edge of the still water in the moonlight with their head lowered. Dear traveler, feel what it is to be at the edge of still water at the end of a very long time. Not your tiredness. The tiredness Merlin is describing. The tiredness of something ancient. Something that has been in the world since before the kingdoms, and has watched the kingdoms rise and fall, and has continued, and is now simply here, at the lake edge, head lowered, the moonlight on its white coat, the reflection of it in the still dark water below. There is something deeply restful about that image. The old tiredness, the still water, the moonlight, the complete absence of anything left to prove or protect or carry. I knew what it was, Merlin says. Of course I knew. There are things you know without being told, not because someone taught you, but because the knowing is older than teaching, older than language. It lives in the part of you that was present before the part of you that learns things existed. It was a unicorn, the word in the cave. Simple, old, the word that belongs to the thing it names in the way that the oldest words belong to their things. Not a description, not a label assigned by people who needed to organize their experience into categories. Simply the name. 2 words. The fire holds them. The crystals hold them. The mountain holds them. The valley below with its still lake holds them. The last one? You sit across the fire from the old wizard, and you feel the weight of those 2 words, and you do not try to think about them. Thinking is the wrong instrument for the weight of those 2 words. You simply feel them in the chest, in the breath. Something older than grief, the particular feeling that comes from being in the presence of something that is the last of itself. That carries in its existence the entire history of everything it came from. Every unicorn that ever stood at the edge of still water in the moonlight since the first one. All of that in this one. It stood at the lake for a long time, Merlin says. Long enough for the moon to move. for the reflection of it on the water to shift, for the mist on the valley floor to thicken slightly and thin again, long enough for me to understand that it was not passing through, that it had come to this valley with a purpose, that the purpose was rest. And then it looked up, directly at the cave, directly at me, the fire between you and the old wizard, the crystal walls alive with amber, Merlin's old face in the firelight, the same face that stood between the two great stones and looked down at the valley and saw the last unicorn at the edge of the still lake and was looked at in return. I stepped back from the entrance, he says, and I waited. Breathe in. The cave holds the memory of what came to it last night. Breathe out. The fire is warm and steady between you and Merlin. Breathe in. The valley lake is silver and still in the moonlight below. Breathe out. Something extraordinary is about to arrive. I did not have to wait long. The sound of hooves on mountain stone, very faint at first, from outside the cave, from the mountain path that leads up from the valley to the two great stones. The sound of something moving slowly and deliberately up the path toward the cave entrance. Not hurrying, simply coming. At the pace of something that has already decided and is now simply completing what it has decided. The sound getting slightly closer. The amber of the cave fire on the two great stones at the entrance. The mountain holding its breath. The crystals on the walls very still. And then the light changed. Before it appeared, Merlin says, the cave became brighter, not from the fire, not from the crystals, from the light the unicorn carries in itself, the light that has nothing to do with the moon or any flame. The light that is simply what a unicorn is. And then it was here. The cave was brighter. The light. The way the cave changed before he had fully registered what had changed it. The crystals on the walls responding to something beyond the firelight, catching a new source and scattering it the way they scatter all light, into 1,000 small points, but different from the amber of the fire. Something cooler, something silver mixed into the amber. The cave becoming a place that held two lights simultaneously for the first time. The fire's amber and the unicorn's silver. It stood at the entrance for a moment, Merlin says, between the two great stones. Its head slightly lowered because the entrance is lower than it is tall. Its horn just clearing the stone above. The firelight on the right side of it. The moonlight from outside on the left. Both lights on it at once, the way both lights were on the cave. It looked at me. I looked at it. There was nothing required in that exchange. No negotiation. No permission asked or given. Understanding without words that the cave was available and the night was long and rest was what was needed, and the fire would keep, and the crystals would hold their light, and the mountain would keep its watch. It came inside. Merlin's voice is the softest it has been. The voice that belongs to memories that are held carefully. The way you hold something that is both precious and fragile. Not tightly. With the particular looseness of hands that understand that the right way to hold precious things is to let them rest in the palm rather than grip them with the fingers. The sound of its hooves on the cave floor, he says. 4 beats, slow, each one complete before the next. The sound traveling through the cave floor into the mountain below and into the crystal walls and into every surface of this cave simultaneously. I felt it in the stone beneath me as much as I heard it with my ears. 4 steps, and then it stopped. In the center of the cave, beside the fire. Feel that image. The unicorn at the center of the crystal cave beside the fire. Its white coat in the amber and silver light. The crystals on every wall alive with the combined light of the fire and the creature itself. The cave at its fullest. The old wizard beside the fire. The last unicorn of the ancient world standing at the center. It was larger than I expected, Merlin says, though I do not know what I expected exactly. The mind makes something manageable from the idea of a thing, and then the thing arrives, and it is larger than manageable. Its neck long, the horn rising from its forehead in a slow spiral. Not straight, spiraling. The way water spirals when it drains, and the way certain shells spiral when they grow. The pattern that nature returns to when it is making something that needs to hold a great deal in a small space. White, he says simply, all of it, except the eyes. He pauses. The eyes were the color of the lake at midnight. Dark, still, holding everything reflected in them the way the lake holds everything reflected in its surface. The cave reflected in them. And looking back through all of that reflection, something else. Something that the reflection was simply the surface of. Deep and old, and completely without the kind of urgency that fills the eyes of creatures that are afraid of something. This creature was afraid of nothing. It lowered itself, Merlin says. Slowly, the front legs first, folding at the knee, then the back, with a gravity and a patience that makes the movement ceremonial, as if the act of lying down is not simply a physical necessity, but a considered thing. A choice made with the full awareness of what it means to choose rest. It lay on the cave floor beside the fire, and it closed its eyes. Dear traveler, feel what it is to close your eyes in a safe place beside a warm fire. Not the unicorn's closing of eyes. Your own, the same act, the same choice. The eyelids finding their down position and the world going soft behind them. The firelight still present as warm amber through the closed lids. The cave sound still present. Merlin's voice still present. The crystals still holding their light on the walls. All of it still there. Simply softer. Simply received through the closed eyes rather than the open ones. Simply resting. The unicorn's horn was extraordinary in the firelight. Merlin tells you this, the spiral of it. The light almost seeming to travel up the horn toward the tip and disappear and reappear at the base and travel upward again. I watched it for a long time, he says. The light on the horn, the breathing of the animal, slow, slower than I breathed, slower than the fire breathed, the breathing of something that was already most of the way into the deepest sleep, that had been carrying the weight of being the last of itself for a very long time, and had finally found the place where that weight could be set down for the night. The cave around you is very still. The fire between you and Merlin earning its steady coals. The crystals holding their amber on every wall. And in the story, Merlin is telling on the cave floor beside the fire in the story of last night. The last unicorn breathing its slow, deep sleep. Both things present simultaneously. The cave as it is tonight, empty of the unicorn's physical presence, but full of the trace it left. The particular quality in the air, the memory in the crystals of the double light they held, the impression in the cave floor where it lay, and the cave as it was last night in Merlin's telling, full, extraordinary, holding the most ancient and the most rare together in its crystal walls through the deep hours of a mountain night. You are in both caves at once. Breathe in. The cave air holds the trace of what was here last night. Breathe out. The fire is the same fire that warmed the last unicorn. Breathe in. The crystals remember the silver light on their amber surfaces. Breathe out. The mountain valley lake is still below. The night is deep. I did not move from my place, Merlin says quietly. All night, I sat here where I am sitting now. The fire between me and the sleeping animal. Its slow breathing filling the cave. The crystals doing what they do. The mountain keeping its watch. And I simply sat and watched and kept the fire. And let the night do what nights do when they are given something rare and precious and exhausted to hold. They hold it, he says, completely, as nights always have, as this cave always has, as I hope this night is doing for you. The cave deepened as the night deepened. This is always how it is. The cave has its daytime self, and its evening self, and its midnight self, and its deepest night self. Each one a different quality of the same place. The deepest night self, the truest one. The one the cave becomes when every distraction is finished, and what remains is simply what the cave actually is. Stone and crystal and mountain and fire, and the particular ancient air of an enclosed space that has been enclosed since the world was young. Last night, the cave's deepest self held something extraordinary. The breathing, Merlin says. When the unicorn had been asleep for some time, its breathing became the rhythm of the cave. Do you understand what I mean by that? Not that the cave breathed with it exactly. That the unicorn's breathing became the measure of everything. The fire burned at the pace of it. The mountain breathed at the pace of it. The crystals on the walls shifted their amber in the slow rhythm of it. The whole cave organized around the breath of the sleeping animal, the way rivers organize around the stone at their center. I found my own breathing matching it, without deciding to. Feel that now. Your own breathing, not directing it, simply noticing it and allowing it to find what it finds when it is left alone. The breath that your body produces when it is not being managed. Longer than the breath of effort. Slower than the breath of the day. The breath of someone who has been in a warm cave beside a warm fire, listening to an old wizard's voice for long enough that the body has stopped performing breathing and has returned to simply doing it. Long, slow, going deeper with each exhale. The horn glowed slightly, Merlin says, in the deep of the sleep, not the reflected light of the fire or the crystal light scattered from the walls. Something from inside the horn itself, very faint, silver white, the light that a thing gives when it is most completely itself, most at rest, most present in its own nature, without the effort of existing in a world that was not made for it. I had never seen anything glow like that before. Not a fire's glow, not moonlight. Something that had no name, because the thing it came from had never needed a name for it. Had simply always glowed this way in the deep of sleep since the first unicorn lay down on the first night in the ancient world, and the light came from the horn without anyone deciding it should. The fire between you is at its coal stage now. Deep red, no flames, the truest heat. The heat that has been building since before you arrived in the cave tonight and has finally reached this. The settled, generous warmth of old coals in the deep of the night. The same coals that warmed the last unicorn last night. The same fire circle. The same ancient mountain stone. All of it here. All of it continuous. The valley below was completely still, Merlin says. I could feel it from here. The lake in its perfect stillness. The moonlight on it. The mist on the valley floor. All of the valley holding the same breath the cave was holding. As if the mountain and its valley and the cave inside it were all one body at that hour, all organized around the same slow breath, the unicorn's breath, the oldest breathing in the ancient world. I thought about what it had seen, he says, in its long life, what the world looked like before the kingdoms, before the roads, before the people arrived and began naming things and building things and wanting things that required them to change the shape of everything around them to get. The unicorn had seen all of that, had been present through all of it, had watched the world become what it became and had remained what it was, had not changed, had not adapted, had simply continued being a unicorn in a world that was becoming less and less the kind of world that unicorns require. And yet here it was, in a cave in a mountain, asleep. Dear traveler, feel the particular piece of that. Something that has been through everything remaining capable of sleep, remaining capable of the complete surrender that sleep requires. The letting go of all the weight of having been in the world for a very long time, and simply lying down beside a fire in a cave in the old mountains and closing the midnight-colored eyes and breathing. If the last unicorn in the ancient world can sleep tonight, so can you? Your weight is on the cave floor, the old wool of the crystal alcove beneath you, the cave wall on 3 sides, the crystal formations above, catching the coal light and holding it in their deep amber, the fire beyond the alcove entrance still burning its patient red, Merlin's voice still crossing the cave to where you lie. Everything exactly as it should be. The cave is holding you the way it held the unicorn last night, completely. There was a moment, Merlin says, his voice even quieter now, in the deepest part of the night when something happened. The horn's light brightened slightly, just for a moment, and the crystals on the wall directly above where the unicorn lay responded to it. The particular crystals there, the oldest ones, the ones that have been in this wall since the mountain formed around them. They caught the light from the horn, and instead of scattering it as they scatter the firelight, they held it, gathered it, sent it back toward the unicorn in a single concentrated beam of silver white. The unicorn and the mountain giving light to each other. The oldest creature and the oldest stone exchanging what they had for just a moment. And then the horn's light returned to its faint sleeping glow, and the crystals returned to their amber, and the cave returned to what it was. But the air was different after, lighter, as if whatever had passed between the unicorn and the mountain had been something that needed to pass, something the unicorn had been carrying since before this mountain existed, and had finally found the right place to set down. And the mountain had been waiting to receive since it first formed around these crystals in the ancient dark underground. Some exchanges take a very long time to happen, but they happen. Breathe in. The cave air is lighter than it was. Breathe out. The coal bed is deep red and generous and going nowhere. Breathe in. The crystals above you are the oldest ones in this wall. Breathe out. The mountain is receiving whatever you have been carrying tonight. The same exchange. You and the mountain. Whatever you have been carrying since before you found the mountain path tonight. The weight of it. The accumulated weight of days and weeks, and the particular tiredness that has no single cause, but is simply the result of being in the world for as long as you have been in it, and doing what you have been doing, and carrying what you have been carrying. The mountain is receiving it through the old wool beneath you, through the cave floor beneath the wool, through the stone beneath the floor, down into the mountain, into the same ancient rock that received what the last unicorn carried. You are not the first to give something to this mountain tonight. Merlin is quiet for a long time. The story in its deepest place now. The place that stories reach when everything that needed to be told has been told, and what remains is simply the weight of it, sitting in the cave air, in the firelight, in the crystal walls that heard it, and are holding it alongside everything else they hold. The silence not empty, the silence of completion. You are in the crystal alcove. You moved there without quite knowing when. The story carrying you the way deep water carries things, without any effort on the part of the thing being carried. Simply the current of it, the warmth of it, the particular pull of a story told by someone who has been alive long enough to tell it exactly as it needs to be told. And here you are, on the old wool, the crystals above you catching the coal light, the cave wall warm on three sides, the fire beyond the alcove entrance its deep, patient red, toward the very end of the night, Merlin says, his voice coming across the cave to you in the alcove, soft, the voice of someone speaking to someone who is almost already somewhere else. Not too quiet to lose the thread. The unicorn stirred, not waking, the movement of deep sleep, the adjustment that sleeping bodies make when they have been in one position long enough and the weight of them requires a shift. The great white body moving very slightly, the legs finding a new arrangement, the head turning, the horn catching a last of the coal light in its spiral for a moment as it moved and then settling again. And then the breathing returned to what it had been. Long, slow, the deepest breathing. I watched the horns light for a while after the movement, to see if the adjustment had brought it closer to waking. It had not. Having found in the adjustment not the surface, but the floor, the very floor of sleep. Feel that now. Not the place between waking and sleeping, where the day's thoughts still come and go. The floor, the place beneath thought, beneath awareness. The place where breathing happens without anyone directing it, and the body does its ancient work of restoration without any assistance from the part of you that manages and organizes and plans. You are close to that place. You have been moving toward it since you came through the two great stones, since the mountain path, since the fire, since the first word of Merlin's story. A dawn came slowly, he says, as it always comes in a mountain valley. First, the quality of the dark changing. Not lighter exactly, different. The darkness becoming the particular darkness that exists just before it is no longer darkness. Something rising behind the eastern mountain, not yet visible, simply present in the change it makes to everything it approaches. The lake below began to show itself. The first thing visible in the valley in the pre-dawn. The water catching whatever faint light was available before anything else could catch it. The lake's surface going from invisible to barely visible to present. Still, the mist on it silver in the pre-dawn, the way it is silver in the moonlight, but different, cooler, the silver of something that has been waiting all night for this particular light and recognizes it immediately. I looked from the valley back to the unicorn. Its eyes were open. The fire gives its smallest sound. The oldest coal settling its final fraction. Not startled, not alert in the way of something waking to a possible threat. Simply open. The midnight-colored eyes open in the cave in the pre-dawn, the way they had been closed through the deepest hours of the night, as if opening and closing were equally natural, equally simple, equally part of the same long, faithful process. It looked at me. I looked at it. The same exchange as when it arrived. No words, no negotiation. Simply two old things in a cave in the pre-dawn light, recognizing that what the night had needed to do had been done, that the weight that had been given to the mountain had been received by the mountain, that the sleep that had needed to happen had happened. It rose. Slowly, the back legs first, then the front, the whole white body ascending from the cave floor with the same ceremonial patience with which it had descended, the horn catching the first faint pre-dawn light from outside the cave entrance. Not amber now, not silver white, something between the two. The color of the very first light before it has decided what color it is. It walked to the cave entrance. 4 steps. The same 4 steps as the night before. Reversed. It stood between the 2 great stones for a moment. The mountains on every side. I could not see its face from where I sat. Down the mountain path, then it walked out, toward the valley. I watched from the cave entrance until it reached the lake, the way it had stood the night before, but differently. And then it walked into the lake, slowly, the water receiving it, the mist parting around it, its reflection meeting it on the surface as it entered. And then the mist closed behind it, and it was gone. Merlin is quiet. The cave is quiet. You are quiet in the crystal alcove with the old wool beneath you, and the crystal formations above, and the coal light amber and deep. I do not know where it went, he says. I do not think that is the kind of question that has an answer in the usual sense. Some things do not go somewhere. They simply continue in a form that the place they were in is no longer the right container for. The cave was the right container for one night. The lake was the right container for the moment of departure. And what came after was right for whatever comes after. I hope it found rest again. I believe it did, because the mountain received what it needed to receive, and things that have given what they were carrying always find rest easier after. Dear traveler, you have given something to this mountain tonight too. You may not have named it. You do not need to name it. The mountain did not ask the unicorn to name what it was carrying. It simply received it through the old stone, through the crystals, through the cave floor and the deep rock below. Simply received it the way mountains receive everything, thoroughly, honestly, without judgment, without keeping account. It has received yours. Feel the old wool beneath you, the cave wall warm on 3 sides. the crystals above in their deep amber coal light. Merlin across the fire, his staff against the wall, his hands in his lap, his old face turned toward the dying coals, keeping watch the way he kept watch the night before over something rare and precious and exhausted, keeping watch tonight over you. The lake in the valley below is still. The mist is on it. The moon is low behind the western mountain. The pre-dawn is somewhere behind the eastern one. Not yet, some hours away. The deepest dark is now, the time that belongs entirely to rest. The crystals above you hold their amber. Merlin's fire holds its last warmth. The mountain holds everything it has been given, and you are here, in the cave that held the last unicorn, on the wool in the crystal alcove, in the oldest dark, already further from the surface than you have been all day, already at the floor, the very floor of sleep. Sleep now, dear traveler. The crystal cave will hold its light through every remaining hour of this ancient night. The mountain will keep what you gave it. Merlin will keep watch beside the cooling coals as he kept watch the night before. The lake in the valley will be still until the morning finds it. The place where the unicorn walked into the mist will be there if you need to look for it. And you are already somewhere the dawn cannot reach yet, already held by something that held the last unicorn and found it not too heavy and not too rare and not too much, already still, already home. Sleep now. The cave is holding you tonight. The mountain has received what you were carrying. You are not the first to give something to this mountain. The crystal alcove is warm around you on three sides. Merlin is keeping watch beside the cooling coals. You are allowed to go to the very floor of sleep tonight. The last unicorn found rest in this cave. So can you? The mountain received what it needed to receive. Things that give what they were carrying always find rest easier after. You are enough. You have always been enough. The lake in the valley below is perfectly still. The mist is soft on the water. The crystals above you are holding their amber light. There is nothing left to carry in this ancient cave tonight. The mountain is not keeping account of what you gave it. It simply received, as it always has, as it always will. You are not too heavy. You are not too much. The coal bed is deep red and patient and going nowhere. Merlin's fire warmed the last unicorn. Tonight, it is warming you. There is rest in every slow breath you take. The cave held something rare and precious last night. Tonight, it is holding you with the same completeness. The horn's light is faded. A night is at its deepest. You are already below the surface, already at the floor. The mountain is above you and on every side. The two great stones are holding the night outside completely. You are already drifting into the oldest dark. The cave holds you as it held the last unicorn. Completely, without judgment. You are loved. You are held. You are home. The cave is holding you tonight. The mountain has received what you were carrying. You are not the first to give something to this mountain. The crystal alcove is warm around you on 3 sides. Merlin is keeping watch beside the cooling coals. You are allowed to go to the very floor of sleep tonight. The last unicorn found rest in this cave. So can you? The mountain received what it needed to receive. Things that give what they were carrying always find rest easier after. You are enough. You have always been enough. The lake in the valley below is perfectly still. The mist is soft on the water. The crystals above you are holding their amber light. There is nothing left to carry in this ancient cave tonight. The mountain is not keeping account of what you gave it. It simply received, as it always has, as it always will. You are not too heavy. You are not too much. The coal bed is deep red and patient and going nowhere. Merlin's fire warmed the last unicorn. Tonight, it is warming you. There is rest in every slow breath you take. The cave held something rare and precious last night. Tonight, it is holding you with the same completeness. The horn's light is faded. The night is at its deepest. You are already below the surface, already at the floor. The mountain is above you and on every side. The two great stones are holding the night outside completely. You are already drifting into the oldest dark. The cave holds you as it held the last unicorn. Completely, without judgment. You are loved. You are held. You are home. The cave is holding you tonight. The mountain has received what you were carrying. You are not the first to give something to this mountain. The crystal alcove is warm around you on 3 sides. Merlin is keeping watch beside the cooling coals. You are allowed to go to the very floor of sleep tonight. The last unicorn found rest in this cave. So can you? The mountain received what it needed to receive. Things that give what they were carrying always find rest easier after. You are enough. You have always been enough. The lake in the valley below is perfectly still. The mist is soft on the water. The crystals above you are holding holding their amber light. There is nothing left to carry in this ancient cave tonight. The mountain is not keeping account of what you gave it. It simply received, as it always has, as it always will. You are not too heavy. You are not too much. The coal bed is deep red and patient and going nowhere. Merlin's fire warmed the last unicorn. Tonight, it is warming you. There is rest in every slow breath you take. The cave held something rare and precious last night. Tonight, it is holding you with the same completeness. The horn's light is faded. A night is at its deepest. You are already below the surface, already at the floor. The mountain is above you and on every side. The two great stones are holding the night outside completely. You are already drifting into the oldest dark. The cave holds you as it held the last unicorn. Completely, without judgment. You are loved. You are held. You are home.